Hello friends and welcome to my channel Coding with Sid. Today we are going to start off with a very simple app which is going to be Counter app, and it's like a very practical app where we will just show you a count on screen, and then we will have buttons to increment, decrement and reset it, and we will be using Create React app for it, right? So we will go open our terminal and there we will type yarn create react dash app followed by our app name, which is Counter dash app. So it will run the all the required dependencies. It will install all those dependencies in the background. While it is doing that, let's open our Visual Studio Code, which we will be using for coding. So now I will go to my repo directory in GitHub and open Counter app, and there I will open app.js, which will have like a boilerplate code, already Create React app comes with that, and we will. So I think by the time we will go to the terminal and the app has finished installing its dependencies, so we will go to cd counter app and then run yarn start, right? And what we will see is on our web browser, for now it is Chrome, we will see in our local host 3000 port the app is running, and so we will delete almost all of the code which is coming in the boilerplate, as we don't need it. So we'll remove everything from this header section. Then we will go and delete everything in our um, yeah, let's go to app.css and delete everything. We will style everything later. Right now we will focus on the functionality. Also we'll remove this class name. So finally we will be left with a div, an empty div. So now we will just add our, and yeah, let's not remove the logo, it's not required. Yeah, we will add our heading of the app like in an h1 tag called counter app, and you can see counter app is rendered on our screen. Now we will be displaying the count there. So we will use a hard coded count for now. That is the count which we want to change later with those buttons. So we will use another h1, and now I have just used a hard coded 0, and that I can see it rendered on the screen. Now I will start with a button calling it as increment, and let's just see if that gets rendered. So yeah, finally I have the button. Similarly, I will copy this, and so I will paste it 2 times, and then I, I will replace the content with decrement, and the another one I will call it as reset, right? So that's good. And now I will add the on click event here. So I will create a function for increment, decrement and reset. So I will start with handle increment function, and I have used it. So let me define it. It's throwing an error. So let me just now define it before return. So I will call it as const handle increment. It is an ES6 arrow function. So followed by, so I will put a console log for now in this function. So function just does print on our console. We will open our dev tools, and then we will click on increment, and we can see our button event is getting fired up, and we can see that log. Similarly, now we will copy this function and we will paste it again 2 times, which will be, one will be for handle decrement and the other one will be for handle reset. I will just rename it to handle decrement, and we'll just console log handle decrement, and then in this case it will be handle reset, and then again I will rename the console log to handle reset, and now I will pass that on click to both those buttons. So for decrement it will be handle decrement, and for reset it will be handle reset, and I can just click on all those three buttons and I can see those console logs printing, which is perfectly fine. Now we have to change this count 0. So for this we would need to use component state, and for that, since it's changing, because we want to increment, decrement and reset it. So by increment we will add a 1, decrement we will add -1, and reset it will reset it to the initial state, right? So that is the logic here. So we know that 0 is, this 0 here is not going to be hard coded, it is going to be changed. So we will use, now we will set our state. So we will use const in square brackets count, set count, and equal to use state. We will import use state from React, which is a hook to which gives you which lets you initialize a state, and it gives you an array with the state value and the setter for it. So by convention, and we for setter we use it as camel casing, and the first letter of the state variable we make it capitalized. So you see count and then set count. So set count is used to change the value of count. And whenever we call the set count, the app is going to re-render itself, and then it is going to display the updated values of count. So I'm going to use this count and replace it my in my hard coded h1 tag. I've already done that. And then in the increment, I will call the set count, and I can like use like use it in couple of ways. So first one is I can pass the priv value, and then I can return the priv value plus one, and finally the set count will update it with the latest value, which is priv value plus one. So in this case, 100 plus one will be 101, and so on, right? Another way is we already know what is count, right? So count plus one can also serve the same purpose. So what we can do is we can just take the count and add a plus one, and then set it as use it in set count method, right? So I will just change the inside of it, and I will now move delete everything inside, and I will just use count plus one and just save it, and then I will just check if it is working fine, right? So let me go back and see it is working fine as expected. So similarly, I can use another way. Actually, I can use another way for call like I can use a temp count, like a variable. And there I know the current count, which is count plus one. So now the temp count will have the updated count, and then I can set it inside the set count. I can pass it in the set count, and since this is a very simple app, and so like right now we don't have to do too many calculations, so it doesn't make sense to use a temporary variable just to do an addition of plus one. So we'll just keep it as a set count count plus one, and let's again just check it is working fine. Now I will just copy the set count and put it in the handle decrement, and only change will be set count plus one. It will change to count minus one because we want to decrement it by one, right? So we can see it is working fine. Similarly, handle reset is very simple. We want to reset it. So in this case, set count will be 100, and I will just reset it. It is working fine. Finally, we want it as zero, right? So we will initialize with zero, and reset again. We will set count will be zero. So now increment is working fine, decrement is working fine, and reset is working fine. So all these are working as expected, right? So that is our app. Now we want to style it as well, right? So that it looks good. So I will add a class name called app dash container. And since I have used it here, I'm going to define it in app.css. We have already imported app.css in our app.js file that came with the boilerplate. So I'm going to write dot, since it's a class name, we will write dot app dash container, and then we will do some basic styling, right? We will add a background of white, and we'll just add a padding of like say 30 pixels. So yeah, you can see it is working fine. And then we will add a border radius of let's say 10 pixels, and right now it won't show because there is no border. Then we will do a height of 100 vh, and sorry, yeah, we'll just do a box shadow first, right? So that we can see it, there will be some shadow. It looks good, so you can see that shadow is coming there. And then we will just add a like text align and center, so that the whole text everything becomes center. Yes, you can see it there. Perfect. Then this looks good. Also, let me do some styling for the body as well, right? So we'll go to the index.css where we already have the styling of body defined. Let's add a background of some gray, like light gray color. So I will just use this FO. You can just use any color, just so that there is a gradient between the app background and the container in which your counter app is, right? So I will just add this. So you can see down this is white and everything is little bit gray. Then I will add a like a font family. I will just change it to use the Arial font, right? Let's just use that. There's a type. Okay, so that is fine. Now I will add a display flex. So, and then I will just use justify content center, then align item center, right? I hope you guys know all about it. And then I will do a height of 100 VH, which is 100% of the viewport height. Then I will add a margin of 0. I don't want any margin. Okay. Now, okay, you can see the app is centered right now. Looks a little bit better than how it used to. Now we will still further style all the headings and the buttons. So now I will style my heading title. So I will add a class name of title here. So let me just add title here. Okay, and then I will go to my app.css and then I will just use a dot title. And I will add a font size of 36 pixel. And you see it looks okay. And then I will use a color, some again a dark color, hash 333. And then yeah, a margin bottom of some, like say 20 pixels, so that there is enough space. Looks good. 20 pixels. Okay, so yeah, there is some space now. Now we are going back to our app.js, and now we are going to style our count. So we're going to call it as class name counter.display dash display, and now we are going to define that counter dash display here. Again, we are going to put a font size again of 36 pixels, let's say, right? And again, the same color of hash 333. Then I will add a margin to it. So we want some top and bottom margin here. So I will use 20 pixel and then 0. And yeah, now I will add a, let me use a transition. And then we use a font weight of bold. Now let's style the buttons. So we will put all the buttons in a container, which we use using div, right? So okay, let me just change the count and make it a div instead of an h1, right? And now okay, so I have this button container, and I will call it as again button container, button dash container. And now let me define this in our app.css. So what I want is like maybe a display of flex, and then I want justify content center, and then I want to add a gap of 10 pixels. So you can see that gap between those three buttons of 10 pixels. So that looks better now. Okay, now I will style the buttons. So I will create a common button class, right? And then for every button, I am going to create some specific classes for increment, decrement, and reset, just to change the color for all. But common properties of button we will define in button class. So the first thing we will do is probably add some padding of both top, bottom, and left and right. And then let's choose a font of font. Yeah, let's add a 10 pixels on top and bottom and 20 pixels on left and right. And then use a font size of let's say 16 pixels. 1 em would be, yeah, 16 pixel, or we can use 1 em, or yeah, 16 pixels. I will just use 16 pixels. And then let's not add a border here, so we will do a border none. And add a border radius, say 5 pixels, then put a cursor pointer so that you can see that hand icon when you hover on the button, right? So let's add a cursor pointer. So now let me add, and you can see there is a hand icon as I hover on it. So, and then what I will do is again add a transition of 3.3 seconds. Yeah, okay. Now I want to style all those buttons specifically. So for increment, I'm going to create another class called increment. For decrement, again a decrement class, and for reset, a reset class. Now I'm going to define all those here, and I'm just going to add some background color and the font color so that it looks really better, right? So now for increment, I'm just choosing a variant of a green color. I'm going to use for CA F50. Let's see, that looks, it's a lighter green, so looks cool to the eyes. So for CA5, yeah, that is good. Then I will change the color to white, and sorry, yeah, white. Now, okay, so that is increment. Now we will same we will do it for decrement. I will copy it two times. One I will say decrement, and one I will say reset. So now you will see all these having green colors, but now I will change for decrement. I will change that color to a variant of let's say red color. So yeah, it looks good. Now I will change the reset to the background color of reset to some yellow or gold color so that it's look better, right? Okay, so now I have the increment, decrement, and reset. I have all this styled. The whole functionality is working as expected. I think that is it for this app. So as we saw, it's a very simple app, right? Let me add some hover CSS as well. So let me just add a hover property, and what I want, I want to change this opacity by some, like I will just change it to 0.8. So you see there's some light background color as soon as I hover on it. And then I will use this transform scale so that by 1.05, so that when I hover, it looks a little bit bigger. It like scales, right? So yeah, that is better. So, and then finally, I will add the active property for this button, and I won't need opacity here. So I will just do like a transform, and this time I will just make it a little bit smaller, whichever is the active button. So I will just make, you see when I click on it, it becomes a little bit smaller. So you see now it's like CSS wise look better, right? So yeah, that is the functionality of our app, and as you can see, it was a very simple app. Increment, decrement, reset. We use just using our uh, state component state. We did not use Redux. It's a very good app to start.